thanks for that. I mean, it's a great honor for me to hear that. I think Tommy needs to focus on the next task. Tom needs to focus on what's next, and the rest sort of try to clear your mind and only focus on that thing, you know?
George St. Pierre offered Tom Aspinall key advice ahead of his potential showdown with Jon Jones. George St. Pierre began by saying he was honored to receive such praise and offered advice drawn from his own past. He recalled how, after losing to Matt Serra, he made the mistake of obsessing over revenge instead of focusing on the next task. He warned that if Tom Aspinall only concentrates on Jon Jones, especially if Jones doesn't return soon, then he is focusing on the wrong thing. Aspinall needs to shift his mindset toward the immediate challenge ahead, because anything beyond that becomes a distraction.
Thanks for that. I mean, it's a great honor for me to hear that. I think Tommy needs to focus on the next task. I remember when I lost to Matt Serra, I was making the mistake of trying to focus on Matt Serra to get my revenge immediately. But I had a few other fights lined up before to get that. And if he's only focusing on Jon Jones, and if Jon Jones does not come back right away, he's not focusing on the right thing. He needs to focus on what is next, the next path. Because the rest, it's a distraction.
St. Pierre explained that things will happen as they are meant to, even if the timeline is uncertain. He admitted he doesn't know what Jon Jones intends to do, but as a fan, he would love to see the fight. In terms of legacy and achievement, he said Jones is the best. He also acknowledged that Aspinall is a proud fighter who wants to defeat the greatest, which is a natural instinct. Still, everything now depends on whether Jones is willing to fight and whether he is compensated fairly.
Things that needs to be done will be done. You know, I don't know what Jon will do, but as a fan, I would love to see this fight. I mean, because in terms of legacy and accomplishment, Jon Jones is the best. You know what I mean? And I understand Tom from his point of view that he's a proud fighter. He wants to be the best, but now it's all depend on what Jon want to do. If Jon still want to do this, if he's compensated fairly, all that plays.
In another interview, George St. Pierre reflected on Jon Jones's impact on the sport, describing him as potentially the most dominant athlete in MMA history. If a fighter had to be chosen to represent the sport in a one-on-one battle, St. Pierre said Jones would be his top pick. While acknowledging Jones's legendary status, he also noted that no one can outrun the effects of aging forever.
Jon Jones, you know, it's probably the best fighter that ever lives. You know, talk about if I have to choose someone in his prime that I put in the Coliseum hand to hand, I think it would be Jon Jones. You know, it's hard to deny that.
He also complimented Tom Aspinall's recent performances, calling his rise impressive and suggesting a matchup with Jones would be thrilling. St. Pierre highlighted Aspinall's drive and ambition, saying the decision now lies with Jones about whether he still wants to compete. He also stressed that the UFC should fairly reward Jones for a fight of this magnitude and said it's a bout fans would love to see.
However, nobody beats time, and Tom Aspinall is on a hell of a run now, so it's to see how they get a match. You know, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. As a fan, I want to see this fight. I would like to see this fight, but I think Tom is very hungry, and it's up to Jon to see if he still wants to do this and if the UFC can compensate him good, because I think he deserves it. So it's going to be a hell of a fight.
On the other end, Coach Eric Nixick emphasized that although Tom Aspinall's quick punches might present difficulties, Jon Jones excels at neutralizing opponents by controlling their arms and breaking their flow. He cited Jones's bout with Stipe Miocic as an example, pointing out how Jones shifted to a southpaw stance to block the jab and precisely time his counters. Nixick also shared a past discussion with Aspinall, warning him to steer clear of the mid-range area where Jones dominates, and underscored the importance of staying on the front foot to keep Jones from setting the tempo.
What advantages do you see that he has over Jon Bones Jones?
I think hand speed.
I think hand speed. But what John does very well, and what we saw in the Stipe fight, is John will occupy your hands. So Stipe is one of his best weapons is always his jab. So you saw John switch to southpaw, lead hand occupy, which left Stipe with one punch, which was a cross. So he was timing the cross to pull off and then was adding on. So I think when you break that fight down, I actually talked to Tom on Monday. We were kind of going back and forth a little bit on some of the game planning things. You can't be in that B range and just kind of get snake charmed by John. Let him grab your hands, let him dictate the pace, let him dictate the rhythm. You have to be hyper aggressive in those positions, and I think that's what Tom would have to do in that fight.
However, George St. Pierre advised that Aspinall should not let the uncertainty distract him because the situation is out of his control. St. Pierre noted that Aspinall is wasting energy thinking about it, even though it is a difficult thing to ignore. He suggested that Aspinall practice a sort of self-hypnosis to focus only on the next opponent. By continuing to approach every challenge this way, Aspinall can build a legacy of his own and maybe one day be considered the greatest. St. Pierre believes he has the necessary tools.
Focus on that because it's outside of his control, and he's wasting a lot of energy focusing on that. And I know it's very hard, but he needs to sort of self-hypnose himself to focus on the next thing and be hungry about the next task. And by doing this, only focusing on the next thing, he's going to build up his legacy, and perhaps one day he's going to be the greatest.
St. Pierre added that many fans believe Aspinall could be the one to solve the Jon Jones puzzle, and that's why the fight is so highly anticipated. As a fan himself, he would love to see it. He also understands both perspectives that Jones is negotiating and wants the right terms, while Aspinall is left waiting. In closing, he urged Aspinall to stay focused on the next fight, clear his mind, and keep moving forward, because that is the only thing he can truly control right now.
I want this fight to happen because a lot of people believe like, oh, he's the guy that's gonna crack Jon Jones' code, and as a fan, I want to see this fight. I understand on both sides. Jon want to be compensated. It's a game. It's a negotiation game. It's a chess game. And on the other side, Tom is waiting. And I understand both point of view, but Tom needs to focus on what's next, and the rest sort of try to clear your mind and only focus on that thing,
However, Tom Aspinall explained that although many wonder why he isn't fighting soon, the delay centers on a potential bout with Jon Jones. He said he's waiting because the UFC wants that specific matchup, and they won't let him take other fights in the meantime. Aspinall clarified he's not obsessed with facing Jones, but beating someone widely seen as the greatest would be a huge bonus. Above all, he wants to become undisputed champion and believes he's earned that chance, adding that the wait, though difficult, makes financial and professional sense.
It benefits you waiting as well, correct?
Correct. I couldn't have said it any better myself.
A lot of people are asking, why can't you just fight in the next few months? But explain to fans just why you're waiting. What's the reasoning?
Well, first of all, I want to be undisputed champ because I feel like I deserve a shot at it. That being said, I'm also a professional fighter and I'm not fighting at the moment. That isn't really my fault though. That's more to do with the UFC. They really, really want to make the fight with me and Jon Jones. For me, I'm not bothered if I fight Jon or not really. It'd be a good bonus if I can beat him. I'd be the best of all time. That people say that he's the person who's the best of all time, but I want to fight, man. But that isn't really up to me.
The UFC don't want you to fight anyone else, and they also, for yourself, understandably, if anyone was in this position of work, financially.
Moreover, Ariel Helwani stated that if the much-anticipated fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall doesn't materialize, it won't be due to any failure by the UFC. He explained that the organization has made genuine efforts to bring the bout to life, and that, in his view, both the UFC and Aspinall have done everything they can. Helwani emphasized that while complications in making fights are common, this situation ultimately rests entirely in the hands of Jon Jones.
My understanding is, if this fight doesn't come to fruition, if for whatever reason it falls apart and we never get to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, the UFC is not to blame. The UFC has, in my opinion, well, excuse me, I'll take that back. The UFC has, based on the conversations that I've had, not in my opinion, but what I'm reading and surmising and what's being told to me is they have made every effort in very good faith to make this fight happen. Now, obviously, when fights don't come to fruition, there's a multitude of reasons as to why fights don't happen. But in my opinion, if this fight doesn't happen, it's not because of the UFC. It's not because of Tom Aspinall as well. I think ultimately who will decide whether or not this fight happens or not is Jon Jones.
He further explained that if Jon Jones truly wants the fight, it could be arranged immediately. While financial negotiations, such as a reported $30 million demand, have played a role, Helwani believes the UFC has worked to meet those expectations as fairly as possible. According to him, the decision now lies solely with Jones, and the outcome depends on whether he chooses to proceed.
If Jon wants the fight to happen today, and I don't mean like the fight to actually be fought today, but like done deal today, it could be a done deal today. It's up to him, and it's always been up to him. Now, for a while, you could have said, all right, they have to meet whatever number, right? That 30 million was thrown out. Whatever that number is, Rogan walked it back. I had heard the same number, whatever. Point is, I believe that the UFC has met all the demands.
Well,
in a very favorable way for both guys. They both have demands. We know what Tom wants to a degree, and we know what Jon wants to a degree. I think ultimately it's on him. Now, we don't need to get into the whole like, at what point do they need to pull the plug on this, and when's the deadline? We've done that song and dance a bunch of times, and I'm kind of tired of it. Like they'll do it when they need to do it. They'll do it when they want to do it. They'll do it when they need Tom to fight. If Jon isn't going to be that guy.
On the other hand, Chael Sonnen confidently claimed that the fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall is already finalized, including the specific date. He expressed no doubt about the matchup, insisting that despite anything Jones says publicly, such as needing more time, he always accepts the fight once the official offer and opponent are confirmed. Sonnen stated that this has always been Jon Jones's pattern, regardless of his public comments. When the moment arrives, he steps up and takes the fight.
I am confident enough to tell you that fight is done, though. That fight is agreed all the way down to the date. That I do have a confidence to tell you. Jones said he needs 4 months. Now you're going to do it in... I'm telling you, this Jon Jones business, Jones will say a lot of things to the media. When he gets that phone call, here's the guy you're fighting. Do you understand? Yes. And that is what he will say.
Ariel Helwani further emphasized that while the UFC has worked hard to make the Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight a reality, it is not yet finalized. He stressed that if the fight doesn't come together, it should not be blamed on the UFC, as they have done everything in their power to move it forward. Helwani noted that while the fight isn't officially confirmed, it could be finalized at any moment if Jon Jones agrees. He clarified that as of earlier that day, the fight wasn't confirmed, but the situation could change rapidly.
But I think at this point, there are some people who want to say, hey, the UFC didn't make Jones versus Ngannou. The UFC didn't make this big fight. The UFC didn't make that big fight. When the story is written on this fight, if it doesn't come to fruition, I don't think it will be on the UFC. I really think the UFC, based on what I'm hearing and have been told, I really think the UFC has done everything that they could to make it happen. Is the fight a done deal as of right now? No, it's not a done deal as of right now. So I don't know what he's hearing. Could it be a done deal as of today at some point? Could it be a done deal in 30 minutes? Yes. But is it a done deal as of earlier today when I was doing some digging? No.
However, Dana White addressed the rumors surrounding the potential fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, stating that all reports are unreliable until the UFC officially announces it. He confirmed that the fight is still the goal for both fighters and remains the matchup the UFC is working to make this year. When asked if he remained confident the fight would happen, Dana expressed continued belief, reaffirming that he is still super confident it will take place.
See how it plays out.
The other big one is obviously Jon versus Tom Aspinall. This week was a funny one. Someone reported that the fight's done, it's got a date, then the next day someone reported the fight's off, and then Jon's not taking it. Where do we stand with that fight?
Everything you hear is until we say it.
So that fight is still the target for both men?
I've said it many times that that's the fight that we want to make this year. Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, you said you were super confident. It's definitely going to happen. Are you still super confident?
Still super confident.
Cool.
Daniel Cormier finds the situation between Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones odd and difficult to comprehend. He mentioned that if he were given the opportunity to fight Jones, he would expect significant compensation, wanting a hefty payday. Cormier explained that Jon Jones doesn't fear Aspinall, viewing him simply as another opponent he believes he can defeat. However, he acknowledged that Jones is aware of the risks involved in the fight. Cormier also pointed out that when the betting odds were first released, Jon Jones was listed as the underdog, which is rare for him, as Jones has seldom been considered the underdog throughout his career.
This whole Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones thing, for lack of a better word, is just weird. For me, it's just weird. Like, I don't get it. If I give him the opportunity to fight me, I want to be compensated. I want to say it. I want that you money. Jon Jones shooting straight. Because at the end of the day, guys, I will tell you, he's not afraid. Tom Aspinall to Jon Jones is just another guy that he would fight and that he believes he can beat. But what he does want is to get paid. And I think he recognizes the dangers in the fight. I mean, when this line opened, Jon Jones was an underdog. Jon Jones was the underdog. I don't even know if there's ever been a time in his career where someone has been favored to beat Jon Jones. And I think that concerns him.
Cormier further added that Jones has been preparing fans for the end of his career, suggesting that this could be his final major fight. He expressed that he doesn't see Jones sticking around just for money if things begin to deteriorate. Regarding the timing, Cormier speculated that the UFC likely already has plans in place, or is close to finalizing something. He also recommended that Jones should fight sooner rather than later, as each passing month makes him older, while Tom Aspinall continues to improve.
If I was Jon Jones, I would do this earlier than later, because every month that passes, he just gets older, and Tom Aspinall gets better. So I would try to do this as soon as possible. I wouldn't want to wait till New York next year, where he's almost 38, 39 years old, with that kid just continuing to improve.
Cormier reflected on his own experience fighting Jon Jones, noting that he was already 36 and 38 years old during their two bouts. He pointed out that now, at 37 or 38, Jones is facing a new type of threat in Tom Aspinall. Cormier warned that Aspinall might be one of the most dangerous opponents Jones has ever faced, not only because of his skill, but also because heavyweight isn't even Jones's natural weight class. Cormier emphasized that if Jones competes against Aspinall at around 245 pounds, the challenge will be even tougher, highlighting how significant and difficult this test could be for Jones.
You know that the first time I fought Jon Jones, I was 36 years old. I was 36 years old the first time I fought Jon Jones. 36 and 38 the second time. He's now what, 37, 38 years old? I think that this kid is as dangerous for him as anyone he's ever been in there with, partly because that's not his weight class. He would fight Tom Aspinall better than him weighing 245 pounds.
Stipe Miocic also advised Tom Aspinall to avoid allowing Jon Jones to control the pace of their potential fight, highlighting that this is a critical factor for any opponent facing Jones. Miocic stressed that letting an opponent dictate the rhythm of the bout is a common mistake that usually leads to defeat.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think also, too, is that you just don't let them dictate what you want. So any fighter, not just Jon Jones, it's any fight, don't let them dictate what they want to do, because you let them do what they want, that's the end of the road for you.
Recognizing Jon Jones as one of the greatest fighters in MMA history, Miocic praised his strategic approach and unpredictable style. He warned Aspinall not to make the same mistakes he did in his own fight with Jones, particularly taking damaging shots like the liver strike. Miocic commended Aspinall's toughness, strength, agility, and composure, and believes that if Aspinall stays focused, he has a strong chance of defeating Jones.
Well, Francis, yeah, he's got great power. He's getting better every fight. With Jones, he's as good as one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time. He's just smart, real tricky, and
get booked with him and Jon Jones. What's the best advice you'd give Tom Aspinall?
Don't do what I did.
Avoid the liver shot.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? But I think Tommy, that guy, he's super tough, and he hits hard. He moves well. He's a big man. I think that he stays calm under the situation, and whatever happens, he just stays calm. I think he'll be fine. He pitches shots. He's smart what he does, and I think he'll do fine.
Moreover, Rampage Jackson recently praised Jon Jones, stating he doesn't believe anyone can beat him. Reflecting on their own fight, Rampage acknowledged he was in peak form, but still lost. While he sees Tom Aspinall as dangerous, he doesn't think he poses a serious challenge to Jones. Rampage also mentioned hearing Jones' plans to take 6 months before facing Aspinall, likely to study his game. He praised Jones's fight IQ, calling him the Neo of MMA for how he controls the fight.
You fought Jon Jones back in the day. People are
why you only bringing up my losses?
People are all talking about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. How do you see that fight going? You got Tom or you got Jon?
Man, I don't think there's nobody on this planet that could beat Jon Jones because I was in there with him. I was at my best, and I've never lost a fight at my best until Jon Jones. And, you know, no disrespect to Tom Aspinall, but he a good fighter. You know what I'm saying? I think he's probably second best out there, but I don't see him.
You think Jon Jones finishes him?
I think Jon Jones is just a real smart fighter. I heard something like he want to take 6 months before he fight Aspinall. I think it's because he want to study him. He want to break him down, you know. Right. Jon Jones ain't no fool. He's probably one of the smartest fighters out there. I say he like Neo. He's Neo of MMA.
That's it for today's video. So what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about Tom Aspinall calling out Jon Jones? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Also check our other videos on the screen right now.